Welcome to my review of the PC exclusive The Spirit of the Samurai. And this game came out 2 years later after Trek to Yomi, which was a game that this developer released. And that game that came out 2 years prior is a much better game than this. This game has a lot of issues. It starts off really strong. About the first 15 or 30 minutes, it seemed to have a lot of potential. I like the setting. But you do spend the first 15 minutes or so doing a lot of fetch quests for villagers, picking up items and bringing them back and stupid shit like that. But I thought maybe it would pick up. The presentation, like I said, is very good. It has kind of a stop-motion animation look, which is unique. And, it kind of gives you the feeling that you're going to play as a samurai character for most of the game. But now the game is only about 3 hours long if you don't die. Now, it took me just under 5 hours to beat. There's a lot of frustrating kind of bullshit in the game that's not really so much skill-based. I mean, some of it is, but part of that skill is navigating some shitty, sluggish control elements and things like that. Now, the first boss was really cool. I liked the way it started off with the first boss. Also, the first boss is also the final boss, so there you go. You fight this guy. It's a cool fight. And then for the final boss, you pretty much fight the guy again, but I think they added a fireball or some shit moving around. So it's kind of like the same fight, but it's a cool fight. It's one of the only parts of the game that was actually good, I think. Some of the combat was kind of cool. I like the death animations when you finish opponents off. You got your parrying, rolling, and you can block. So if you time your block it just before the strike hits you, you'll parry the attacks. So unfortunately, this game mostly focuses around playing as a fucking cat and doing these stealth sequences where you die instantly if you don't do exactly what the game wants you to do. And it's extremely unclear what the fuck they want you to do. So expect to be doing these parts a lot. Even after I watched some videos of these sections being done correctly, I would die a lot because I didn't really understand the little nuance of exactly what I was supposed to do. So I've edited this down heavily. I tried to cover this game in about 15 minutes in this review. I didn't want to drag it out too long. I'm trying to cover the key points that annoyed me, basically. And I do cover a few things that I liked, obviously, as well, but there wasn't too much aside from the art style and presentation. So, unfortunately, you spend a good chunk of time playing as this fucking cat doing stealth. The cat can't fight anything. So there's quite a few sequences with the cat. Now remember, this is only a 3-hour game, right? So you're already wasting time playing tons of stealth sequences with the cat. Now you're playing as this little shit, and this guy is kind of like the large samurai enemy, except the samurai guy that you play as. He's kind of similar, except he has like a little special move or something, but the combat with him is even lamer because you don't really do much parrying. You're fighting like plants and shit like that. And the worst thing about it is that in this area here, for example, you have to find 29 of these fucking plants, right? And you have to kill them all, and then go back to the worm who instructed you to kill all the fucking plants, right? So you're doing fetch quest bullshit in the middle of the campaign, obviously. So what's annoying about this is there's probably 9, 10, 12 caves that you got to go into, and you got to make sure you find every fucking plant. And some of them are going to be hidden behind like a wall that you have to break with your special move or something, right? Now, there is a visual cue that once you know it, you'll know where those walls are. It's not like cryptic or anything in that sense, but it's not really explained by the game either. But once you figure out one of them, you'll know where they are. But even once I figured that out after checking a fucking video, I didn't even know how to do the special move for a while. But once I figured all that shit out, I still had to wander around and go back in the same fucking caves again and again at the chance that maybe I missed a fucking plant, right? So I'm just going around. If you miss one fucking plant, you see I'm at 24 plants. So this was near the end. But you miss one plant, you're going to search every fucking cave to see the one that you missed. So if that sounds fun, well, you get that in the game. So that's good. Now there's a boss fight with this little man here. And this shit, it looks like a cool fight. But basically all you're doing is charging up your fireballs by killing the minions. Then you go back here and fire a few fireballs at him and go back down and rinse and repeat. Simple fight, but what was shitty about it, like most of the boss fights, is that the control can be very clunky and unresponsive. So you'll jump up on the platform, you'll hit your fireball move, and it doesn't come out, right? So then you end up getting hit or killed because the move didn't come out. So you got to kind of anticipate that sometimes your moves aren't going to work, and then you just got to just dodge preemptively sometimes. But it's just kind of shitty, you know. If the gameplay was tighter, you would just be able to respond to it better. So kind of a sloppy fight, but I mean, it wasn't one of the worst ones in the game. You know, I guess it's okay. It's decent, not horrible, but kind of shitty with the sluggishness of the way the character moves to do the specials. Now here we go. We get a little bit more stealth action. I'm only showing some of it. So now if you don't do this exactly the way they want you to fucking do it. See, I thought maybe because the guy's eating or something, it was the time to go. And I guess that one was correct. But there's certain things like where there's not really a clear visual cue. And if you go at the wrong time, you just die. And, you know, you don't always know why the fuck. You know, am I supposed to do it while he's chewing or something? You know, you don't really know when is the time to move. And you're going to just have to die a lot. And see what the game wants from you. Now here I was supposed to go in the skeleton's rib cage. The skull didn't count. I have to be inside the rib cage of the skeleton on the ground. You know, kind of a weird thing to do. I mean, I don't know if you would really, you know, most people would assume that you're supposed to go in the rib cage and hang out there for a while. But you're going to keep doing these until you get it right. And they go on for a while with no checkpoints sometimes. So you're just going to keep repeating the sections over and over again. You got to watch a stupid death animation every time you die. It's insta-death if you get spotted. See, I was at the skull. I can't go behind the skull. I got to be inside the fucking rib cage. And then there's shit like, you know, if the guy is chewing at a certain time, that's when you got to move. But if he's like not fully chewing or some shit, like if he's looking a little bit, then you might not be able to move. It's really unclear. If you play it, you'll understand, you know. So now we have more action with this little guy. There's some platforming, but, you know, the platforming, it's serviceable enough, but it's a little clunky. Then you got shitty scenes like this where the game is super inconsistent. So you'll have sections with enemies where you can just skip all the enemies and run through areas, right? But then you have sections like this where you're expected to kill all the enemies, but it was never indicated in any objective or anything. So you'll get to the end of the area, but the game mysteriously doesn't let you go through. There's no invisible wall. There's no barrier that shows up. It's just like you can't go to the right anymore. And then you get mobbed by all the enemies and you'll probably die. So then in that case, you need to know that, okay, I need to kill all the enemies in this area and then it'll possibly let me through if it doesn't glitch out. I think it may have glitched on me before, but that may have just been because I didn't do what I needed to do. It's hard to know sometimes with this game. It's pretty fucking sloppy. Now, the combat animations look great. The environments are great. Like I said, the presentation is top-notch. So you'll see here now I'm fighting and clearing out the enemies as it wants me to do. But it doesn't tell you that. You're like, all right, fuck it. I'll just try killing everyone, and maybe it'll let me go through. So that's what I'm doing here. And I believe that worked for this section. In this review, I tried to edit through my entire playthrough and try to pick stuff that stood out. As annoyances and shit like that. So you're going to be doing a lot of running around caves and shit, and you know, you're going to have to backtrack, and you know, there's not like a map or anything, so it's very easy to get lost. So, you know, you're going to be backtracking. You don't really know where the game wants you to go. Sometimes you got to get like a key and then go all the way back somewhere and open a door. Now the areas aren't huge, but they're big enough. You know, it's not like Metroidvania-sized areas, but they're fairly big to be wandering around and backtracking and getting lost. So it's irritating because you might have not done some like stupid shit that the game wanted you to do. So you'll be climbing shit, and then sometimes you're going to go back down these platforms because maybe you missed something, and you know you're going to be wandering around. So a lot of times you can skip tons of enemies, as you see me doing. It's very like unclear as to when you're going to fight, when you can skip shit. Game doesn't really tell you that. Occasionally the game will say eliminate all waves of enemies, and then you have a clear indicator of what you need to do, but that's not the norm. So here we have the menus. Now, at these statues is where you can level up your character. Now, if you kill a lot of shit, you'll get a lot of experience points, which you can put into your attributes, such as your strength, resistance, I think is like defense, and things like that. Dexterity is important because powering that up will unlock more moves that you can put into your combo strings, which I'm going to explain in a minute. That's a huge fucking problem because the menu for the special moves for setting up your combos is a horrible fucking menu system. It's really fucking bad. Here we see it. you can, now it's a cool idea. You know, God Hand has done similar things, and there's been some other games that let you customize your combos and stuff, which is a cool idea, no doubt. It's awesome when executed properly. It is a cool feature in this game, but the menu is so fucking cumbersome to use. Because a lot of times what happens is when you highlight the moves down where it says, you know, down where you actually put the moves in, where it says front attack, for example, a lot of times it doesn't give you like the names on those moves when you highlight them, I think. There's a really weird thing where you have to try to match up. I have to like look at the animation of what's going on in the bottom menu and try to line it up with the top to see what moves I even have selected. It's very unclear. And the problem is that like when you go down into the bottom menu, the animations stop in the top menu, right? So now I'm trying to like figure out which things I have set to what, you know, based on like, trying to match up the animations, but it's like there's no animations anymore when you go down to that bottom menu. So it makes it like really cumbersome to try to select my moves and input them where I want them. So if you notice, what I did was I only set up my front attack combos, and I didn't bother with the other attacks. I just didn't feel like setting it up. Just too much of a pain in the ass. Now this is another shitty section. This is a boss where it's really not clear what to do. I had to look it up. I didn't even know what the fuck you were supposed to do. Now, when the fight starts, it does kind of indicate by showing an explosion next to the boss, right? Which is, I guess what you're supposed to do is lure the enemies to explode on the boss, which is a really fucking weird thing to do. But, so what you got to do is get them down to really low health, right? And then you got to hope they don't explode wherever you were attacking them at, right? So you want to try to get them to come over, right? So I'm trying to lure these assholes over here. And then you gotta lure them into their death explosion right next to the boss, which is a really awkward thing to do. And it goes on for a long time. I just cut it down. It's very tedious. Now here you see I'm jumping over all these circular saws, right? This is one of the shitty checkpoints as well near the end of the game. As soon as you hear the saw sound, pretty much the saw comes out and kills you. The animation and movement in this game is very sluggish and delayed. So basically what I did was, to get past it, I would just keep jumping and shit and eventually get through it. But a very shitty little sequence here. And you're going to see now the completion of it. And I just keep jumping, I would get through it. Now this, because of all the annoying bullshit, I just said, fuck it, I'm just going to like speed through this area. So you'll see me, now I'm actually, this is where I sped through the area, I think. But now I go up here and I skip all the fucking enemies and run up the stairs, basically. Because it just got so shitty. I didn't even want to deal with it. And then see, the saw almost took my head off, so you got to make sure you tuck and roll when you get up to this top floor here. You got to remember to do it on that floor, otherwise you instantly die again. Now this guy I killed because this was near the end, and I just wanted to get rid of him because he was kind of hindering me from going up the fucking stairs. But I was just trying to run through this fucking area. It's just very shitty. Another thing that I didn't mention that's a big fucking problem with this game, your stamina bar is your fucking health bar in this game, right? So what that means is, you know, you could swing your sword and just drop dead, right? Because you didn't have any stamina left because it's your health. And I'm pretty sure I've just dropped dead in the middle of a boss fight for swinging my sword too many times. I think that was something that actually did happen. So, even if you don't die from swinging your sword too many times, you're going to get one hit killed a lot because, when you're fighting multiple enemies, you're swinging your sword. So your stamina bar is naturally going to be low during those fights. And if an enemy hits you with a single hit from anything, a projectile, whatever the case may be, you're going to die. So that's part of the fun of the game. You do have some projectile attacks. You have items like strength potions, stamina potions, and things that kind of buff you. So I did use some of my buffs on this final boss here, and this was a no damage run. Not that hard to pull off. It was mainly just doing running attacks into him to stun him and kind of keeping that momentum going. Now, sometimes I move a little slow because I never figured out where the stamina bar is and all that shit, so I just would delay my movements a little bit so that my stamina would regen a little bit. Even when I beat the game, I never really figured out where my stamina bars were. I never really decided to try to figure it out. I just was like, fuck it. I got a feel for just beating the parts, and I didn't really bother with that too much. But a lot of times I would just fucking die because, I'm fighting multiple enemies sometimes, or even one enemy, and I'm trying to swing and shit, and my stamina is really low just from swinging the sword a few times. So, enemy hits me, and I get one shot killed, so. And that's just covering some of the bullshit in the game. You know, there's a lot of shitty elements to this game and a lot of bullshit that really ruined the experience for me. I mean, like I said, I thought it was going to be great from the start of the game. It seemed great. But even Trek to Yomi is a little bit clunky, but that was 2 years before this that the team made that. And that game is actually pretty good. I'd recommend that one if you're looking for a side-scrolling samurai game in that realistic samurai style. That's a good one to check out. But this one I wouldn't recommend playing. I would give this one a 5 out of 10. I think it's very mediocre, and I almost feel like that's a little generous. But, I mean, there is some good gameplay here and there. But it's always a little clunky no matter what, and there's tons of issues that really kill the pace for me. If you have any questions, let me know, and thanks for watching.